see you guys in the dark.
I have always believed in ghosts and the supernatural. Back in the mid-80s, I was pretty miserable. My parents had died, and I was kind of lost. I spent a lot of time with my old friends from high school, Scotty. Scotty had a girlfriend. Let's just call her Shelley. It's not really her real name. She was all into the occult and Wicca and stuff like that. They both had lived in a basement in an apartment with two other girls. One of the girls, Chris. She had once told me that the apartment was haunted by a ghost named Phil, and that he was powerless to do anything. I don't know where she got this information, but being young and kind of crazy and daring, Scotty and I went out, bought a Ouija board. We thought that it would be fun, and both shared an interest in the occult. Before we used the board, we waited for Shelley to come home from work. I had brought another friend with me, Sid. That's not his real name. Sid and I had known each other since we were kids. He had knew Scotty a little, but he had never met Shelley. Well, we were all set to use the Ouija board, but none of us, except for Shelley, were serious. Scotty and I decided to make a quick run to the liquor store for some beer. We left Sid and Shelley in the apartment. No one else was there but them. We couldn't have been gone more than 20 minutes, maybe less. But when we walked in, Sid was visibly shaken. He drank a beer in one gulp when I handed him one, and told me that he was leaving. There's some freaky stuff going on here. I asked him what he was talking about. Apparently Shelley and him tried the Ouija board. Sid, believing that Shelley was pushing the planchette, took his hands off of it and asked what his parents' names were. According to Sid and Shelley, the Ouija board had spelled it out. I can see now that this would shake Sid up. His parents had been dead for many years, at least 10 before he had even met Scotty. And trust me, Scotty never knew Sid's parents' names. There's no way Shelley could have known either. Sid left, and Scotty and I decided to screw around on the board. Phil, or so the board had said, made an appearance on the board, thinking that the other was playing a joke. We had decided to taunt the spirit. After a while, we got bored and stopped. I left the board. I paid for it, actually. So I had left and went home. The next evening, I was over at Scotty's again. Shelley and the other girls had gone out. And one of our old buddies, a guy named Bill, came over. Bill was really cool. He had long red hair and dressed like a hippie, but he wasn't into drugs or anything like that. Anyways, Scotty went to the store for a six-pack and a video so that we could all relax and just hang out. While he was gone, Bill and I decided to sit at the kitchen table and mess with the Ouija board once again. Phil had showed up. When Bill and I both accused each other of moving it, Phil had spelled out, "Watch the cat." Shelley's cat was sleeping on a rug, not even 6 feet away from us. Suddenly the cat had woken up like someone had poked it. It started hissing at something we didn't even see. But the cat definitely acted like something was in front of it. Then it started running around like it was being chased and disappeared into one of the bedrooms. I looked at Bill. He had turned white as a sheet. Without warning, he bolted at the front door at top speed. He ran into Scotty, who was just getting back, and practically knocked him over on his way out. I didn't know that Bill was so scared, and I wasn't. I was shaken a little, but I wasn't frightened that much by what had just happened. Bill wouldn't come back inside, so Scotty and I had sat outside, building with him for a while, and talking until it got late. Then Bill and I had went home. Scotty and I are probably hardheads. I went to Scotty's a few nights later. He and I had messed with a Ouija board before. This time, Phil took on a nasty tone, saying that he was going to get us, and how he was really evil. We made jokes at him, generally told the ghost that we'd kick his ass. It got really late, and everyone else had gone to bed. I had a few beers with Scotty, so he told me that it was okay that I slept over. Said he didn't think that I could be driving home. Lucky for me, Scotty had an extra bed. It was right next to his and Shelley's room. It was separated by a partition. Well, I accepted, but that night I had the weirdest dream. That night I had dreamt the streetlights right outside the window kept flashing on and off, and something was lurking outside of the building. Every so often, something whispering my name. The next morning, I had told Scotty about it over breakfast. I figured that it was only a dream. We had been messing around with the Ouija board, so a weird dream wasn't so strange. But as I told Scotty, he had this look on his face, like he had just heard something unbelievable. Scotty told me, and he looked completely serious when he did. Mike, I had the same dream. I had the same fucking dream. Only the lights inside kept flashing, and something in the hallway was calling my name. I laughed. Scotty was a big joker, and he sometimes liked to try to scare the shit out of me. So I thought that he was just kidding. I still don't know if he was or not. We decided to settle on the argument, does the Ouija board work or not, theory. Once and for all, at least. That night, Scotty, Shelley, and Bill's older brother, Rob, drove way out into the cemetery. This cemetery is probably 100 or so years old, maybe even older, and so far into the woods that I didn't know that it was there. I lived around the area my whole life. Our thoughts was that if ghosts were real, here's where we will find one. Hey, I never said that we were smart. There was a low wall around the cemetery, about 3 feet high. The only other structure within sight was a small church. I don't know if it was abandoned or not. It was about 10 p.m. and dark. Plus the place was in the middle of the boonies and surrounded by trees. I had a flashlight, and so did Rob. Rob was visibly scared. We always gave him a hard time about being a chicken, so I think that he came with us only to prove that he wasn't actually a scaredy cat. Scotty had a small pen light and some candles. He started lighting them and putting the Ouija board in front of the tombstones. Shelley, Rob, and I were looking at the tombstones, trying to read some of the worn writing on them. None of us were watching Scotty for a few minutes. Suddenly, Scotty had shouted, "Let's get the hell out of here." He threw everything together and started running full speed for the car. He kept yelling, "Come on, let's go." We all chased after him. I think if Scotty had the keys to the car, he would have just left us. But it was Rob's car. We had all jumped in. Scotty kept urging Rob to just floor it. Rob, who was, as I said, kind of a scaredy cat, complied, and we sped away. I asked Scotty why he ran like that. Did he see a caretaker, or maybe a cop around? Which was unlikely. As I said, there was nothing around there. The rest of us could have seen a police car. Scotty just kept saying, "I don't want to talk about it." To this day, I don't know exactly what happened, though. Over the years, I've asked about that night, but he won't say anything. Now, there is a big chance that Scotty was just playing a prank to scare the rest of us. I really don't know. I only know that that's a long way for him for a joke, and after 10 or so years, you'd think that he would have told me. Plus, he did seem scared as we drove away, and Scotty didn't scare very easily. He always had balls as long as I've known him. Well, after that, I took the Ouija board home with me. It was technically mine anyways. I lived in my grandparents' house at the time, and my only company there was my dog. My dog's name was Nico. I'll admit that I was lonely. A dog is a great company, but they don't talk. I missed my parents and grandparents, and I felt completely alone in the world. So I foolishly started playing around with the Ouija board. I met a spirit that said that she was Beth Easton. She claimed to be a young 20-something-year-old girl that was killed in a car wreck not far from where I lived. She even gave a location. I didn't really know if I was communicating with something, or whether my involuntary muscle movements and subconscious were doing it. Still, I had spoke with Beth almost every night. One night she said she'd write to me if I got some paper. I tried it. I think they call it automatic writing. I'm going to tell you this. I know I didn't purposely write anything on the pad that I had, yet my hand was started to write itself. It scared the crap out of me because I think for the first time I thought, oh shit, this is for real. But being a hardhead, I still used the Ouija. Beth said that she really liked me and felt sorry for me being all alone most of the time. She told me this via the board, that she was going to visit me soon. I was still very skeptical, but a little scared. The night that she said she would visit me, I went to bed around 11 p.m. My dog curled up on the foot of my bed like she always did at night. I fell asleep pretty quickly, but I woke up suddenly. I remember looking at my clock. It happened to be around 4 a.m. The room was very dark, and I couldn't figure out why I woke up so suddenly, especially seeing as how it was 4 o'clock in the morning. I was a deep sleeper back then. I noticed that Nico was gone, which was strange. Nico had hardly left the bedroom until I did in the morning. I thought to myself that she probably went downstairs to her water dish. Then it happened, and I swear that I'm not making this up. Something plopped into the bed. It felt as if someone had laid down right next to me. I swear I even heard the springs squeak under the weight. After hearing the noise, I didn't move at all. I just laid there, staring at the ceiling. At that moment, I kept trying to figure out if it was my imagination or whether it was what I really felt. I was certain that I was wide awake, though, because I thought about calling for Nico. But I was scared, and I didn't make a sound. I just listened. To this day, I swear I heard the sound of light breathing, like a female, right next to me. Why would a ghost even breathe? I don't know. I didn't care right then either. Then, and I am not kidding, something touched me on my chest, like a hand from a female when she snuggles up to you in bed. I didn't even look. I just jumped out of bed and screamed. Poor Nico was downstairs lying on the floor when I came tearing down the stairs screaming, which makes it even weirder because Nico never left my side at night except for one time. I turned on every single light in the house and waited until sunrise for the fact that I was scared out of my mind. Nevertheless, I went to work that next day and stopped over at Scotty's on my way home. I told him what had happened. He laughed like he didn't even believe me. He kept saying, "Mike, you were dreaming." I couldn't believe that Scotty, of all people, didn't believe me. I went home, pulled the Ouija board out. I was desperate to find out if I was going crazy or not. So I guess asking a Ouija wasn't the wisest course of action. But I said it before. I never claimed to be smart. The Ouija spelled out a message from Beth that boiled down to, "Why did you run away from me? I came to sleep with you. I love you, and I'll be back tonight." Now I was terrified. I figured I either had a ghost on my hands, or I was going absolutely nuts. My best buddy didn't even believe me. Said definitely wouldn't if I were to tell him about it. It was just me and the dog. So I did what any other guy in my position would have done. I slept on the couch with my lights on. Moreover, I wasn't going upstairs for anything. I even got my change of clothes for work and all that right before the sun went down. Whether it was my imagination or not, for some reason, the second floor of my house took on an eerie feel. I was uncomfortable up there, even when it was daytime, and I had lived in that house my entire life. One night I went by, nothing happened. I was still scared. The second floor just seemed to be oozing like a presence. The next night, however, I dreamed quite clearly that I was standing at the bottom of the staircase. A voice had kept calling me upstairs, but I couldn't see anyone. There was just this voice calling my name, and the stairs looked like they had went up 100 feet. In my dream, I was compelled to go into the bedroom and see what was calling me, but I was too scared. I woke up screaming. First time in my life that I ever woke up screaming like a guy in a horror film. I was sweating and shaking. The next morning, I didn't work. Thankfully, Scotty and Shelley didn't either. I told them what happened. Shelley believed me. Scotty seemed to be convinced that I wasn't making it up. Being into witchcraft and stuff, Shelley had came to my house and took the Ouija board. She said that she was going to get rid of it for me. Then she used some candles, incense, her spooky mumbo-jumbo, and then went around the house cleansing it. I really didn't fall for all that kind of magic stuff, but I did then. Even as a placebo, it helped me calm down. It seemed to have worked too. Nico would go upstairs once again. I could sleep in my room, and I felt better, as it did not scare me out of my wits. I haven't touched a Ouija board since. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.